Hi, welcome to the Makers with Heart October Challenge. This month we are focusing on the Slimline thin cuts. There are 7 dies that Close to My Heart is offering at this time, so each of us got to pick one of the thin cuts and just play with it. So you'll get to see how to use them in scrapbook layouts, mini albums, on regular size cards. One of the gals has even made a BB-8 out of her Slimline. So if you haven't watched all those videos, there is a playlist in the description. I decided to use the Happiest Place paper. This paper pack and stickers are still available online, craftingwithamanda.com, if you don't already have a Close to My Heart maker. And here are some of the papers. There's the roller coaster kind of ride, the yellow and white stripes, the loops, the stars, the black and white stripes, the circles that so represent a famous amusement park company. And I just needed to play with this and have some fun. I added the colors Candy Apple, Lemonade, and Glacier, as those were some of the feature colors in the paper pack. So what I did is I took 2 of the Slimline envelopes and 2 of the card bases that come in the pack, and I actually glued the flap of one envelope into the opening of the other envelope, and this is going to be my cover for a little mini album that we're doing. It's real easy to do. I did lose my footage on that and I apologize. So now I'm looking at these white papers and they need to be distressed. So I'm trying to figure out what direction to go in. I want to show you, this is the Windows Slimline thin cut. And you get the outside pieces as well as those other 3 little circles. So like I said, I was looking at the bright white of the card bases and wanted to just have some fun and play. So I just took one of the bags from the packaging that something came in, I'm guessing an embossing folder perhaps, and I smear the Candy Apple ink pad on my nonstick mat, add some water, just pounce my gloved or bagged hand and just have fun. As you can see, I realized partway through that I don't need to do the centers of all of this, as they will most likely be covered with papers. So then I'm just trying to focus on the edges. I brought in the black shimmer brush, not only because there's black in the paper pack Happiest Place, but also because it just adds more noise and interest. It kind of anchors the look. So I decided I needed to have that glacier paper or color in as well. So I had originally thought that I was just going to swipe the edges directly to the ink pad, but it was too thin of a line. There wasn't enough glacier represented. So now I grab my mini blending brush or tool, I should say, and you can see that I just swipe more on the edges. So here I'm just cutting papers. I'm just going to cut some papers to have in stacks. The covers, the pieces need to be 3.5 by 8.5 to give a little bit of a border. I think it's like a 1/8 inch border around. And then the actual pages, which were the card bases, I cut some of those papers, the same papers, but they're at 3.25 by 8.25. This is just a fun way to make a mini album. It has 2, or it potentially can have 2 pockets at the front and the back to slip memorabilia or journaling notes or anything else you want. And as I'm cutting these papers, I just need to be mindful of what's up and down. So you noticed on the, I'll call it like the roller coaster image, I made sure that my 8.5 or my 8.25 inch was so that the orientation was up and down on that. And this is cardstock that was from the Happiest Place coordinating cardstock, and that is not available still, but I had it in my stash and it didn't make sense to not use it, so I apologize for that. So here I'm just kind of playing with laying out these different papers, and as you saw, I took my base rectangle and just cut a diagonal out of it and just kind of dry fitting, getting an idea of what direction I want to go in. I'm realizing that because the inside papers and the covers are 2 different sizes, that I need to cut the triangle pieces also from the inside page papers that I cut. And you'll see on the layout that it's a height difference, but when you actually look at the book in person, because it has a uniformed edge around the project, you don't see that they're off. So here I'm taking a foam mat and putting it beneath the project. I've lined everything up in the center, and I'm just poking holes. And I've made so many of these books that I don't feel like I need to get my ruler out and measure where each of the holes should be poked. But you'll see I just take DMC embroidery floss, all 6 strands on a darning needle, and I just basically hand stitch it through. And I did use some washi tape to make sure that the other end didn't come through my book, because that's happened before and it's just a little frustrating. So I realize I need some more thread at the one end to tie it. So all that I do is I'll end up weaving this thread back and forth underneath the long stitches that are in the center of this book. And that just makes it a little so that they're not as floppy and they won't catch on things. Just tie a knot in the middle and you now have a bound book that's ready to embellish and decorate. So you can see here how that did. And you can tie a little bow. I was thinking about that, and then I decided, no, I'm not going to save that as a feature. I just kind of want to get rid of it so that it blends right in. So now I'm just reinforcing the fold so that it will lay a little flatter, and I'm just deciding how I want to proceed. I needed to cut the polka dot and black stars paper. I needed one set from the cover size and one set from the inside pages side as well. I'm saying sides for my stacks of paper. So here I'm just kind of dry fitting. I'm going to glue all this down. I will speed up the actual process of gluing the papers down, and I'll jump ahead a little bit, because we all know how to glue down papers and line things up, and we all have our methods of what we like to do. I'm slipping this little piece of scrap paper underneath because I wanted to make sure that I didn't get any glue so that it holds the pocket down from the envelope, because keep in mind that left page is actually an envelope. So I wanted to keep that open because I want to put some pockets in, and I want to be able to cut those slits. So I need to be able to push a cutting mat, and on here it's from the Cuttlebug. I don't know, it's a clear mat so it's hard to see, but I'm just using my ruler and drawing lines above 2 of the circles from that circle window thin cut piece. And then I will again just use, excuse me, I had to cough, I will just use a X-Acto knife, or box cutter actually in this case, and my ruler, and just cut some slits. And like I said, it's a clear mat that's under there, so it's not going to go through to the front of the cover. And once that is done, I pushed some tools that I had in just to hold the pockets open a little bit, and then I went ahead and added glue along the edge so that now I am sealing the envelope shut on all sides so that the pockets will actually be pockets. So that's what I did there. And I also pulled out, I didn't show the cutting of it, but I pulled out the circle shaker window thin cut die, and that's where this stitched frame comes from. It's bigger than the circles on the circle window thin cut, or Slimline I should call it. So don't be confused. There's 2 different dies being used. One is the Slimline card, and there's 3 circles together on it, and one where that frame came from is the original shaker circle window thin cut that I wanted the pieces from it to be able to add to the embellishments, because I don't know about you, but when I think of Disney, I think of circles and stars, and so I just thought it would be fun to play with all of that. So this album, just so you know why I chose this project, is all about our oldest, and the first time that we went to Disney and they got to see everything, and that was at Disney World. And then he got to go in May of 2019 with his dad, because they were invited to one of the vendor previews of Galaxy's Edge. So as a senior trip present, we paid for the airline flights and that for them to come to California to kind of walk around Galaxy's Edge for the first time. So the opening pages are all about the first visit, I think in 2007. And we did a lot of character shots on that trip, just with Chicken Little, and then even some of the real characters, like I can't think of what they're called, the statues of Winnie the Pooh, and then I think there was some Lego statues in downtown Disney. We just had a lot of fun taking all the photos with the different characters. I think that's part of our joy when we see our kids, or as a kid, to kind of see those characters up close and in real life, and you can touch them. So I took one of the I just cut a rectangle out of the yellow stars paper and made a tag out of it, and I will add some red ribbon to the top of it as a pull for that. And I'm just trying to place all these little photos so that they can be seen and tell the story of our first visit to Disney World. I know everybody has different ways that they like to tie their ribbons on, and for me, in this particular case, I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot to smash those two together and to hold them in place. So I just put a glue dot in the middle between those two where they connect right above the tag. I hope that makes sense. And again, I'm just doing some dry fitting, and I'm trying to balance the left page and the right page between circles and photos, and making sure that the images themselves pop out and tell the story. And these images, I will have to say, I did not cut these, or I did not print these this small. These were left over from the album that I did for my mom, because my mom was at Disney with us, and I had printed 2 sets thinking I would make these into a mini album for us, 10 years ago. But I found them now, and so they are getting put into an album, and this will go to our oldest. So it'll be a memory that he gets to keep forever, which is kind of nice. And I keep forgetting, at least in the beginning of creating this album, to go back and look at the sticker sheet. There are so many awesome phrases and stickers and images and just things to use that it just makes this album come together quickly. I did do this album over the course of several days, just in little snippets. So it's kind of funny where I would go to start and I was like, so what have I already done? Okay, where am I at? Is the camera on? Just trying to think through all of the things that you need to do and yet keep life going when you have a family. This is a zip strip, and I love this zip strip. It adds some color, and it's gonna tie the 2 pages together. Yes, there's stars on both pages, but this way it just kind of ties it together. And you can see that all I did was fold it in the middle and let it kind of work itself out of how much it needed to pull when it was closed versus when it was open to lay on the page correctly. So I went back and I just added a whole bunch of papers, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't show all that. Here I'm taking the long tag out from the front cover, and I'm drawing some lines to do my journaling on. And I'm using my Versamat because I wanted to do more than just a 1/4 inch, but I didn't want to do a full too wide of a space. So I kind of use the lines on my Versamat for making those for the tag. So I'm making a shaker card out of this Slimline cut, and I don't know what I was thinking. I think because I was stopping and starting in my projects, you can see how I put the I can't think of what it's called, the foam tape around the 2 circles, the top and the bottom, because that's where I put the acetate. I wanted the center to be more of a photo frame. I didn't want the whole thing to be a shaker card. And my tip for putting the foam tape around bends is to take off the protective plastic that you normally peel off, that I'm peeling off now. If you peel it off earlier, it will actually shape itself around the circles much better than mine did. And because I had to put all of my sequins in a pile, there are some that are stacked on top of each other. So here you can see I'm just taking the end of my piercing tool and kind of just breaking those apart. So now these are more pictures that I did just print for this project. And this is photos from the May 2019 trip when they went to Galaxy's Edge, and they made kind of our own family robot. It's shaped like a BB-8, but I don't remember what they decided to call it. You couldn't take your camera in to Galaxy's Edge yet. This was Disney was truly controlling the PR and what was released, and so they took photos for you and gave you a photo pass. And then after the launch, when it was free for people to post their photos of their visit, we were sent the link and got the photos. And of course, because it was graduation from high school year, we have our cap and gown photos. So I'm kind of highlighting those. And it was so funny. There's so many photos that are the cap and gown on the hotel bed with towels propping up and then putting it on the robot that they built. And it was just fun. So I'm trying to balance having some of the silver sparkles, that are in the star paper on the right, or on the left, and also the sparkles that are in the shaker element. So that's where the sticker sheet really kind of helped me out, because there were sparkles and hearts and sparkles and circles, and you can see that I just put those banners up there, kind of covering the top shaker element, but just having some fun with it. And I'm sorry I'm a little off screen there, but a couple of my pages were sticking together just from glue that had been, that seeped out, so I just pulled those apart. And here what I did with the windows, the circle window thin cut, is I actually cut it into 3 pieces, and then I rounded the edges of the 3 pieces that I cut. And I kind of thought that you could make it like as a camera lens or as individual shaker elements, which I do right here with the castle photo. They took a great photo of the castle at night, and this is Sleeping Beauty's castle, because we're in Disneyland. And I just thought, Disney always has the stars around the castle, so I went ahead and made a shaker element out of just 1/3 of this. And here you'll see that I got smarter, and I pulled the paper off of the top of the little thin cut, or the foam pieces, and so it makes the circle around there much better. So added the stars, and it looks more like the castle at night with the fireworks going off, right? So one more shaker element. Oh, and the photos that I just put in the upper right corner, or the upper left corner of the left page, are ducks. I don't know why, but our kid goes and takes photos of wildlife wherever we go. Not, of the scenery, not of whatever, but of the critters. So I had to incorporate the 2 photos of the ducks that were also captured during this trip in May of 2019. So again, I'm just playing with the I can't even think of what it's called, the stitched frames, and then the centers from the window thin cut, along with some of the stitch circles that also came with a thin cut piece. And I just cut them, like I said, in those candy apple red, lemonade, and glacier colors, which is what goes with this paper. So I'm just having fun with it and kind of dry fitting things that will make the photo stick out. And as far as design element, I don't know if you noticed, but in the upper left corner of the page is the photo of the castle in the daylight, and then in the lower right corner of that page is the castle at night. And here I have some of the tickets and the fast passes that were obtained that day, and I thought about tucking them into the pocket at the back of this mini album, but I really want to have those for our family album instead of this mini album that's going to go to our son. So I decided to put those to the side, but I was thinking about it. So here are all the photos that they take when you're on a ride, and some that I think they did themselves, but all of these are mostly ride photos. So I'm grouping all of these together, of course, on the roller coaster background paper. And I just wanted to bring in some red and bring in some yellow and just kind of just make it fun. And this to me is just a fast, it comes together quickly. It's not an over the top, over embellished, but it's just a really nice share the memory. Our kid will be able to journal memories that he had from these days. And if you're familiar with Disney at all, you might have heard the phrase hidden Mickey. Well, here I'm creating my not so hidden Mickey, except for it was in that I showed the cover to my husband and he didn't see the Mickey. So hopefully it's not so hidden to you and you get it. I just thought it was a fun thing to do. And again, I took one of the pieces from the thin cut die that I had cut apart into thirds, and it's also on that front cover there, and it'll end up being a background for, I don't know if I do with the title in there. I think I did a photo of when the whole family went, because the last pages are the last trip that we as a family took to Disneyland after COVID, and they opened up the parks, and we felt fully vaccinated and comfortable going into the parks, that we made a reservation and got to go in July. And I had these tags on my desk from a previous project, and I was just trying them as journaling spots, and I eliminated them, but I just thought I would share that sometimes, it's okay to try out things or audition things, and if they don't make the final cut, that's okay. It's just one more step to what could have been or what might have worked out for you. So I had cut one of those red, I keep forgetting the name of it. It's a stitched frame from the shaker thin cut. And so I'm using the other half of it here. And I just think we need to be reminded from time to time to go off the edge of our page, or make it look like that things continue past the edge of our page, outside the box, as they say, just so that there's more to come. So like I said, here we are in masks, not always with masks. Sometimes we were outside, and so we could take a selfie and get us all in. Thankfully, my husband has long arms and is tall and can get us all captured in the selfie shots. Because if it were up to me, my family teases me that I have T-Rex arms. And so I would never be able to get all four of us in with height and background and everything else. So the circle that I'm putting the glue on now was actually a piece that I put a thin cut inside of another circle element, and so it just made that frame for me. And it's not perfectly centered because I didn't tape it down when I ran it through the machine, but you can hide it behind the photo in the black circle, and no one's ever going to know except for now you and I. I'm using more of these stickers for hearts. I really, like I said, I just had fun doing this page, and I decided to take one of the selfie of all of us together and put the balloons on it because you just couldn't be happy. But I kind of was trying to balance between the hidden Mickey losing where it is on there versus having it show up on the cover. And I apologize for being off camera right here. I was trying to tuck the ends of the balloons under the photo. And I'm pop dotting the balloons off so that it'll be at a nice angle. And because I did liquid glue underneath the photo, I have time to sneak those in underneath. So I have to have some of the silver sparkle on the front. It just wouldn't be right to not do that. So here is, I've added the journaling, I've added the titles. Here are the tags that go into the pockets in the front with that Slimline. And I did just use a gel pen to kind of do the stitched outline. And I did it rough. It wasn't uniform. You can see that everybody has their own style. This one is mine for this album. So I'm just walking through. We talked about the ducks and the journaling and just the fun times. And like I said, I talked to our kid about what his memories were, and he plans to do some writing and include that in the back pocket. So again, if you haven't seen what the other makers did with the Slimline thin cuts, go ahead and check out the playlist below. Remember to subscribe to all of our channels so that you don't miss any content, and have a blessed day.